Hello, everyone. We are here today with Shawn and Marisa Medlin, the co-founders of The Seasons Assisted Living and Memory Care Facilities, correct? Yes, you have multiple locations.
And it's Marisa, not Melissa.
Marisa. Did I
Yeah.
say Melissa? I'm so
Hey.
sorry. I was more focused on making sure that we don't have two S's anywhere. You know how we make mistakes in some of the simplest things. I think this is one of those things. Like, we're so hyper focused on some of the details that we make some mistakes.
We do.
Right. Anyways, Marisa Medlin. And everyone, and as you know, we are James and Alma. We also co-founded Linchpin Funnels together. We have co-founded the Intimacy Repatterning Method together, which is really kind of the reason we do these interviews. We want to showcase what couples who go all in on everything in life, marriage, kids, blended families, if there's such thing, businesses, everything in life, when they go all in on all of it, and what the struggles that they go through and that they get through, and they come here on these episodes and they share how they have survived and thrived through those things. So
welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us.
We're excited.
All right. I have a tendency to just kind of go on and on and on and on and on, talk until something lands. So that's why I have my Mr. High Conscientious to clean things up for me.
Same.
Right.
So for you guys, it's the opposite, right?
So James, you're going to throw elbows on her and she's going to throw elbows on me. So
perfect.
Wrap it up.
Perfect.
Yeah. So we've known Shawn, so I think 3 years now, right?
I think it's been
in the third year for sure.
I think we're headed into the third year since I met you guys.
Okay, we're headed into the third year.
Yeah.
All right, so we have heard of Marisa for all these 3 years, but we've never actually had an opportunity to meet you and to actually talk to you. So I'm really, really excited about that.
Same.
Yes. So I want to know, because when we do talk to Shawn, we have a tendency to strictly focus on business. So now I really want to introduce your personal life here. And I'm curious, for you guys, before you got where you are today, you have had some serious challenges. And I'm curious, did the seasons exist before or after? What came first, marriage or business?
Marriage definitely came first. Yeah, we didn't. Let's see, we married in 2014, and we were probably several years into being married before we started our own company.
Okay, yeah. So you got married, then several years later, you started your own company. What led to starting your own company? I mean, you got married, you were married for a few years, and then you're like, hey, you know what? This is working. Let's just throw in a whole company, right?
Yeah, great question. It was actually something that happened prior to our wedding that kind of laid the foundation and lit a fire. 30 days prior to our wedding, Marisa and I met in corporate America. She and I both worked at a tech firm. The way we met, very stereotypical. She was the new intern that just got her master's degree, and I was the senior sales rep that everyone warned her to stay away from. And so we worked together. And, we quickly got assigned to some mutual projects. And that's kind of when we realized that, we work pretty well together. And so at any rate, 30 days prior to our wedding, I get a meeting request from my boss to come into the conference room for what I thought was going to be a big meeting to discuss a new project that we were all getting very excited about. I walked into the meeting and actually my boss wasn't even there. And it was someone from HR and another guy from engineering. And they said, Shawn, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to let you go. And, it literally blindsided me. And it was just it was a huge gut punch to have the rug yanked out from underneath you. And it wasn't because of anything that I did or didn't do in my job. It was a corporate decision, made from the corporate gods in Atlanta that didn't even know me. But I didn't see that coming. And, it took a few days. It took a while to I was literally in shock. And I remember telling myself once the dust settled from all of that, I never want to feel this way again. Mm-hmm. I never want anyone to have that sort of power over me or my family. And so that's, to me, was the big spark that said, obviously, let's go on our honeymoon and I'll find a job when I get back. We literally went on our honeymoon and I was unemployed. And so that was interesting, right? But I came back and, found a job and life goes on, but life went on with a twist. I was already looking at real estate and looking at ways that we could start multiple companies and, to get out of that corporate grind and to build something for ourselves that we control.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were let go. Marisa stayed, right? You kept your job.
Yes. I had moved on to a new job by then.
Oh, you did.
Pharmaceutical sales. So I wasn't still at the same company.
Gotcha.
So I had a really good, dependable job. And man, I just remember when he called me, I thought he was like pranking me. We were both just so blindsided because he was so successful. Usually when things aren't going good, you kind of have an intuition like, hey, this isn't going well. Something may be coming. We were both I remember exactly where I was when he called me and I was just shocked. And so we knew from that point, we had done a lot of personal development up to that point. Rich Dad, Poor Dad was very popular back then. And we knew that we wanted to get out of the rat race. Mm-hmm. We just weren't sure what we wanted to do. So we just got really busy researching and praying and trying to figure out what our next path was going to be. But that was definitely a pivotal point for us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think that happens. That happened to us also, right? You got laid off. I think we were married for 4 months, 5 months.
Oh yeah, we came back from Aspen, and it was like, yeah,
we came back from honeymoon.
Cruise back in, like boom, yeah, similar thing. I mean, thankfully it wasn't before the wedding. I think I would have really crapped my pants if that would happen. But like, yeah, it's definitely like you think this is stable, then nope, it's not.
Yeah. So, and I think when you get that call, Marisa, I absolutely relate to that because I remember getting that call from James. And this was back, in our case, it was in 2006. We were still smoking cigarettes back then. And I remember going outside and smoking a cigarette when talking to him and him dropping that ball on me. But what happens between then, that call, and building a company, I think that's where people grow the most. But we don't talk about that. It's like, oh, lost my job, then we started a company, right? But there's this whole new marriage, new planning for a family and whatever happens. And that stress for you, Shawn, first of all, because, of that masculine energy or masculine need to provide financially, right? And then for you, Marisa, whatever you experienced yourself, the need to support and love and still provide. So I'm curious, how did you to navigate that period?
I've
Locked out.
Well, let me just say this, and I think it speaks a lot to who Marisa is, and it speaks a lot to our connection. I was divorced with 3 kids when I met Marisa. And, I was, there's a 13-year age difference between us. And, there was a lot about our relationship that we couldn't explain that really just didn't make sense. And, gosh, my youngest at the time was 18 months old. And I had been through some really dark seasons, custody issues and things like that when I met Marisa. And the poor girl, she lost friends over our relationship. And, it just, because it didn't make sense to people, right? But, there was something, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, it brought us together. And, I love the name of your show, what an unquestionable bond. I think that's a strong name because it really describes us. So to answer your question, we, again, new marriage, corporate layoff, a spark to get ahead in life and not repeat the mistakes of our past. We got busy. We started reading books. We started listening to podcasts, lots of personal development, just learning more about finances and then finally getting to a point to where we took action, because as you guys probably know, a lot of people, they spend tons of money on courses and books and things like that.
Waiting for downloads, right?
Yeah, exactly. They seminars and things like that, but they never actually do anything with it. And Marisa and I were just determined to just break the cycle. And we knew that we wanted more for ourselves and for our kids. And we wanted to provide more. And so we just kind of got after it.
Yeah. And Marisa, I'm curious for you, because I know Shawn has mentioned a couple of times how it didn't make sense. So what didn't make sense about it to your friends whom you lost over your relationship or anybody?
Well, I was fresh out of college. I was, early 20s and, really just getting started. And, obviously I wanted to have a family and, you have this path set out for you that, you think that this is how things are going to go. Right. And like he said, he had been divorced. He already had 3 kids. So, it wasn't an ideal situation, meeting, your college sweetheart and, riding off into the sunset. So it was just a different path. Right. But I think that we knew that our connection was unique and that we could pretty much brave anything that came along. So we just kind of trusted in that. And we took things really slow and made sure, but
I mentioned that I already had 3 kids and, life can throw you a curveball sometimes, you think, and at that stage of my life, I thought I was done having kids and I had a vasectomy. Like I was done. And then I meet someone and fall in love with someone that has no kids. And obviously that was a deal breaker for her. And, in fact, it was, I hate to use the word requirement, but it was something that we discussed heavily. And she insisted, and I agreed, to reverse my vasectomy prior to her walking down the aisle. Wow. And that was an intense procedure, but we got it done. And today, we've got 2 beautiful daughters, Kendall and Kate. And, after having 3 boys, these girls, they're a lot, but I love them and they keep me young.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I can definitely see that how, it didn't make sense. You already had been divorced prior to you guys getting together. You had 3 children prior to this. So you had made a decision. Okay, I'm done having children. Marisa is saying, hey, I'm not going to get married until after this happens because I haven't even started having children, right? So all of these things that for many people would be a reason to walk away, right? So, okay, well, you're done. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go find somebody who, I'm young. I'm in my early 20s. I'm gonna go
Plenty
find
of
somebody
fish in the sea.
yeah. Okay, that was nice, right? And you didn't. You still stuck with your heart's desires, and you got the man you wanted. So fast forward to starting businesses. It seems like, of course, if we can overcome all of that, or if we can get through this together, not only did you get married relatively young by today's standards, right, in your early 20s, but you also became a bonus mom, or whatever you refer to your role in the kids' lives, to 3 children, not one, to 3. So starting a business together just doesn't seem like such a big deal for people like you, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess we've always kind of considered ourselves to be fairly driven. We always say that you're either driven or you're drifting, right? And so I think some of that is our personality. Marisa is very task oriented, very to-do list. I call her the compass. She's kind of the north wind for me when I start kind of going south. I'm the big idea guy, the visionary. And the way our brains work, and the way, she has a really good way of helping me kind of, focus and get some things done. And we break things into small chunks, and we can execute on things. And a lot of that has to do with our communication, which we'll certainly dive into if you want to.
Yeah, I'm curious now with communication, because I can definitely see us for us, it's the opposite. I'm like, how cool would it be if we just blah, 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 right? Whatever it is. And when James says, well, wait a minute, didn't we decide on this? I would take offense to that. Like, you don't value my ideas, because I'm ready to go to the next one. And when he starts to explain or steer us in the boring direction, I'm like, oh my goodness, who wants to do this? So communication is huge. Oh, go ahead.
No, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a big part of why we work so well together, because I'm more risk averse. I want to see it all on the paper, pencil out. I want to know everything's going to work out and everything's going to be okay. And he's the opposite of that. He, like you were saying, just big ideas and, off of emotions, and like, let's climb this huge mountain. And so I feel like having one of each of those in a relationship is a blessing, truly, because I tell him all the time, like, we wouldn't have a business probably if it weren't for him, because it was a big risk, and it was unknown, and that's not my personality type. So it's nice to have both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. So Shawn, how did you persuade somebody who's so risk adverse to go into business with you?
I teed it up in a big PowerPoint presentation for Marisa. No, I'm joking. But, essentially, I did tee it up. She and I together jointly, we were researching a lot of different things. We own and operate our own senior living company. We do assisted living, we do a memory care, and we have multiple locations. And, she and I, again, everything that we do together. Our word that has always been a constant throughout our marriage is the word aligned. That word is something that means something to Marisa and I, because we don't, what it means to be aligned is, I don't go and make a big decision without her knowing all the details, and we move the ball down the field together. I see couples sometimes where the husband is all excited about doing this thing, right? And he's off on this one path, and his spouse doesn't really know, or just knows a little bit, but isn't really on board. And they're in different lanes. And, to me, that's almost like rowing against one another. So we early in our marriage, somehow we just came up with the word aligned, and we use it all the time. Like, honey, we need to get aligned on this before we can make that decision. We've got to have a meeting. We've got to talk. We need to get on the same page. We need to get aligned. But once we started looking at real estate and things like that, and obviously senior living is a very strong asset class because there's no one's getting younger, right? And so there's always going to be a need for that. And with the big wave of baby boomers that are headed our way, there's actually a shortage of housing for seniors. There's not enough assisted living beds. And so the case that I had to present to Marisa was already pretty compelling. And I just needed it. We needed it to pencil out, right? Numbers. And we needed it to make sense. And, it was risky. And we've known people over the years that have tried to do what we've done and they have failed, or they've just quickly realized, hey, this isn't for me. And they've sold or exited the business, and we've stayed the course, and we're still scaling our companies. And so, it made sense. And once I presented it to Marisa and we researched and we just really got educated, it was just a joint decision to take that step of faith.
Yeah. For someone whose first intent is not to take risk, right? So you, Shawn, presented Marisa with something that you didn't have to invent the problem, right? You didn't have to convince her that this problem exists. It's like, okay, this problem does exist. It makes sense. So if we're going to start something, there is a shortage of beds. So why not do the thing that people are already seeing as a problem, right? And I think that's kind of the best way to present a business opportunity to someone. I view everybody through the DISC profile. Have you ever done a DISC assessment?
It's been a long time. We've done lots of those. Yeah.
So when you think of someone who's rather on the conscientious side, right, which I'm assuming Marisa is, so it just makes sense to her, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm curious now from Marisa's standpoint. So you present that idea. She says, okay, sounds good. Let's do it. So what were some of the biggest challenges for you at the beginning?
Oh man. I mean, it's a 24/7, specific to senior living, it's a 24/7 ran business. It's one of the hardest businesses to run because unlike retail, it closes at night and you're starting over the next day. This is a 24-hour, 365-day business. So, we didn't know much about senior living. It wasn't coincidence, but at the time we were looking, my grandfather, we were also looking for a place for him, right? So there was a personal connection there as well. And so many things just aligned that we were like, okay, this is meant for us. Like, when something's just meant to be, and it's like, there's so many different signs, that's kind of where we were at. So just jumping in and learning a completely different industry. I mean, we had both been in sales. I was still in pharmaceutical sales. He had been in sales for several years. And, we're just the type of people that anything that we do, we want to be the best at.
Right.
And so we were learning a complete new industry while both still working full-time jobs and starting a family. So we had a lot going on. And
I do want to add that, in the early days, after we started our company, we both kept our W-2 jobs for a while. And I think I may have kept mine for a couple of years. And no one at my corporate job knew that I had started this business. And of course, I always give that advice to new entrepreneurs, go out and get a W-2 job, because you got to take care of your four walls expenses, right? Especially if you got kids or whatever. So I kept my job for a couple of years after starting our company. And it was pretty cool when I made the decision to leave corporate America and quit, I remember having a bunch of old colleagues reaching out like on LinkedIn, like, what are you volunteering with seniors now? What is this thing? Because I used to work at a tech company and I took this hard turn and they all thought I had just taken a job. And to their surprise, no, I had actually started a company and we probably already had 20, 25 employees. And, and then probably, let's see, year 4 or 5, Marisa quit her job and we both got out of corporate America. In the early days, after I quit, Marissa's salary and commissions and pharmaceutical sales, that kind of propped us up for a little bit. And so, the timing had to be very, was crucial, wouldn't you say, for both of us to leave high, 6-figure jobs and, have to do it all on our own, plus get benefits and the kids and all that stuff. It was very scary actually. But again, we were methodical about it. We didn't jump too soon. We did it when it made financial sense.
Yeah. Okay. And were the girls already born or?
Let's see, Kendall.
She was not even 1 yet. Yeah,
she was. She was not even 12 months old when we got started. She's 9 now, and we were dragging her around all over Houston, looking at real estate and talking to people and different vendors and contractors, things like that in the early days.
Yeah. So you guys made the right financial decision, right? You didn't just have this idea and said, okay, let's jump all in. And for some people, it does work. Let's just go all in. For us, we're going all in, done, right? So for some couples, it works. Our way works.
Eventually, I didn't want to. I think we should say a little bit of how we got started too, because Alma was working for Tony Robbins for a while. She started off going on her own. And then I was working corporate jobs and as a software developer, and she kept wanting to jump and do her own thing and be her own boss. And, I was terrified of that. I want no part of it because I felt like I can do this. I don't know if I can do that. So it really took for us to actually just leave the entire state of Florida, come up to North Carolina, change everything. It's like, okay, well, if we're changing everything, might as well change everything. And then we jumped into business. I was already diving in with both feet kind of mindset at that point. So I was like, okay, fuck it, we'll do this too.
Yeah. Of course, it started working eventually. At the beginning, it just was not working so well. I mean, the fighting, we would spend days fighting.
Not working, not making money, just projecting our crap on each other. Yeah.
Fight over money while not making any money. Yes. So it was so for us our beginning was very financially strained, right? And for you guys, you made the right decision financially, right? And you were very methodical, like you said, Shawn. But working full-time jobs, running a company, having 20 plus employees, having babies. I mean, yes, you didn't have necessarily financial stress, but was there at any point during that whole thing where you thought this could break us?
You want to take a shot? No, I don't think it was stressful, right? It was very intense at times, but there's never been anything that has happened during the course of our relationship that's like, this could be the end of us. But we certainly had moments where our backs were up against the wall and we had some tough decisions to make. We had to get creative and we had to get on our knees and pray, but we've always, we've defined, I feel like for us, a couple of words that come to mind is just grit and resilience after some of the things that we've been through personally and professionally. And so no, never been anything that, has come up that says, we're as a couple, we're not going to ever make it. But there certainly has been some really high stress moments, and some pretty intense, points or parts, during that time.
But when we first got married, or before we got married, we said, we're making a decision. We're choosing to get married, and divorce is not going to be an option for us. And that's something that we've said from the very beginning. And, we committed to not making an emotional decision or letting anything drive a wedge between us that would ever put us in that position. And so just learning from some of our past experiences, that was a commitment we made to each other and said, hey, we're getting married, we're starting a family, we're starting a business, and we're making the choice to choose each other and for life. Whether
we like each other in the moment or not.
Don't need to like each other.
Yeah.
But, again, one thing that, talking about communication, one thing that has been, I think, one of the keys to our success, both personally and professionally, is communication. We are transparent always in all ways. It doesn't matter what the topic is. It doesn't matter, what the struggle is or whatever. We don't hold anything back. And, there have been times where I'm like, babe, I need to talk to you. I need FaceTime with you. Sometimes I'll schedule FaceTime with Marisa because our lives are balls crazy sometimes, and with kids and all that. But transparency has just been probably one of the biggest things that has it's just something we committed to early on. I think that after me, having been previously married, and then, I remember the very first business that I ever started or tried to start in my early 20s was such an epic failure that I filed bankruptcy in my early 20s. And, at that time I'm like, oh God, like this entrepreneurship thing is clearly not for me. I don't know what I'm doing, and I have a lot to learn. And, obviously I'm glad that I took another swing at it later in life. But, we've had a lot of opportunity to know what we don't want in our life, and we've observed other people, other couples, other businesses. And so we've had plenty of time to figure out what we don't want our life to look like. And then we've spent a lot of time being very intentional about, forging our path to have the kind of life that we want, and we got after it.
Yeah. It's so beautiful listening to you, Shawn, because often, I talk for a living, and I often hear people tell me things like, this isn't for me. It's not for me. I tried it, didn't work out. Clearly, I'm not cut out for it. My personality, my parents, my history, my whatever, right? Everybody has their reasons.
Attachment style.
Exactly. All of these, we just carry these things on our backs, justifying why we can't have certain things. And then in your case, you meet the right girl, right? And yes, risk adverse, right? But that keeps you in, I'll say, aligned, right? That keeps you, it doesn't keep you in a box. It doesn't put you in a box, but it gives you a railing, right? You can't really just constantly pew out of this. It's right. It's like, we make a decision, we stick with it. And Marisa, I just met you, but she doesn't necessarily expect you to fix all of it, right? You fix everything together. You align and take care of everything together, which is, I believe, in any business, regardless of whether you're in senior care or I don't care what you're building apps or starting a nursery, whatever that is. If you are with the right person, truly anything is possible.
Yeah.
when we talk about when we talk to our couples that we have an opportunity to interview, one common theme seems to play kind of center role here is that divorce is not an option.
Yeah.
Right? Every single couple we've talked to, it's just divorce is not an option. It's not a we'll see, let's see how this works out. It's just, we're gonna achieve our goals and we're gonna do it through grit, because divorce is not an option.
Yeah.
It's a requirement, like the whole thing with business is you have to just like not stop. No matter what, you have to not stop. And the same is true with marriage. Because it's like, if something isn't working, then you're not in alignment with God. You don't just take what's not working and be like, okay, I'm going to take what's not working and be over here. It's not going to work over there either. It's the same thing in business. Like you're out of alignment. The market is not responding because you're not saying the right things, right? Your spouse isn't responding because you're not saying the right things. You don't have the right values. You're not aligned in a certain way. So it's like you have to stay at it. Look, how am I the problem here? Change that, come back together, and then you advance to the next level.
Yeah. And you, we know a little bit about you, Shawn, but I know that you were not taught these. This has been kind of the what's that term? School of hard knocks. That guy. So this has been self-education, right?
Yeah, self-education is a real thing. I think I may have done a year at a junior college, year and a half, and said, this isn't for me. But everything, just about anything that you want to know or learn in the world, it's available. It's on YouTube. It's in a book. It's in a podcast. And so, that's where I learned a lot. Is I just got really committed to personal development. And that's where I gained, and obviously just life experience and taking some risk along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, how old are you girls?
They're 9 and 6.
9 and 6. Okay. And this is pretty much the life that they've known, right?
Yeah. Same for
entrepreneur.
Yeah.
The son he mentioned when we first met that was, almost 2 is now 16. So got him.
Yeah. So 3 home, and but they've, maybe the girls not so much, but our sons, they've seen the changes, right? And they've seen the first house that we bought when we lived in College Station. It was a blessing to have it, but over the years the next one was a little bigger, and the next one, and but they've seen us, I would like to think, move the needle, right? And it's not only financially. I mean, money just creates an opportunity for freedom, right? And the way I define freedom is I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, with who I want to, without having to ask anyone for permission.
Except Marisa.
So that's how I define freedom, right? Financial. So money is just a tool. People say money doesn't buy happiness. I've been, I disagree, because I've been poor and, not poor, but broke, like broke, and I've been rich, and I'll choose rich, happy any day of the week. I've seen both sides of that coin. And so, but our kids, I think now one of our challenges, it's not really a challenge, is just to keep them grounded and to help build their mindset, their grit, their resilience to overcome, lots of different obstacles that we all know are going to be headed their way.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, there are many fascinating things about your story, but Marisa, specifically with you, becoming a bonus parent to 3 kids and going against all odds, going with marrying somebody that's important people in your life didn't necessarily approve of, right there you have this risk of, hey, should it not work out, you're going to have a whole bunch of people coming out of and saying, I told you so, right? And you being willing to take that on, and then obviously starting businesses, having children, having more children, growing together, maturing together. Of course, there's also big age gap, right? And standing in your own, owning the place that you're taking up, so that you're not just this 20-something-year-old girl, right? You have a voice, you have something to say, you matter, but your decisions matter. That's a lot for somebody to take on, right? It's, I kind of compared that to how we started. We met when we were 21, started dating, got married. We were both 26. We kind of grew up together, and we're like, yeah, you messed up, but so did I. We were like messing up at the same time, at the same speed, of maturity. Yes, girls are a little more mature than boys, but still. So you have had when I look at it through my own eyes, you've had your share of baggage. So if there was a young woman, someone like you, listening to this, watching this now, is there anything that you would tell her not to do or to do?
Yeah. I mean, and I even think about my girls, and our kids, and how can we pass on what we've learned sooner to them, right? Like, we were in our late 20s, we were in our 30s, 40s, figuring this all out. How can we help them move the needle sooner and not, waste those 10, 15 years? And they weren't wasted, but just help them find their path sooner, right? So, I mean, I think the first thing would be just listen to your gut, and your instinct is always right. Because, I never thought, well, what if this doesn't work out? All these people are going to judge me. I was really sure in my decision. We took our time, we made sure. And then once we made a decision, we stuck with it. And, I think a lot of people can get stuck in this position of, wavering. Was this right? Was this wrong? If I would have done this, it could have went this way. If I would have done this. And so, analysis paralysis, right? You have to be really intentional about what you're doing and stick with the decisions that you made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because you're going to figure it out, right? Even if it was maybe the wrong decision at the time, you are so much more wiser today that you can direct it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Beautiful. And what about you, Shawn? What would you, if a younger Shawn was watching, what would you tell him?
Oh gosh. Just again, get educated, whether it's, in finance or relationships, and, business, whatever. I feel like that this version of me was built very intentionally, right? And again, I think I'm so blessed and so thankful for Marisa for pushing me, because she does push me in a lot of different ways. She challenges me to be better. And so, the message even to my sons and, our kids is, don't stop trying to improve. A lot of people just get very comfortable, especially in marriage, where they just don't think, that they need to put in any additional work. And, they get comfortable, even with the way they look or the way they show up. Maybe they're not going to the gym or exercising or their diet. That stuff catches up with you eventually, right? But it really impacts the way you show up. And what I mean by showing up is just in a social situation, or in life and business, or if you're wanting to date someone, the way you show up, it matters, right? And so, I think that my message for, the younger generations is just don't keep trying to evolve, right? And it's okay to reinvent yourself, because God knows I've reinvented myself many times throughout, my life, and just keep trying to get better. And, if you ever reach a point where you think you're the smartest guy in the room, it's probably time to get in a new room, right? And so get around people that are like-minded, that want more for themselves, because, we all know that who you spend your time with, they can either propel you, or it's like an anchor, right? So, if you imagine you're on a boat and, the boat is full of a lot of incredibly toxic people, it's like you've got this huge anchor that's keeping you from going forward. Whereas the opposite of that would be to be on this speedboat with lots of driven people, driven couples like yourself, and other like-minded people. It's like having this huge propeller on the back. And so, we've certainly have seen a lot of dynamics with friendships over the years and things like that. But we've just made a very conscious decision that we want to spend our time with people that are they're like-minded, not only in, business, finance, but family, faith. And that stuff's important to us. And that would probably be the message that I would have to the younger generation is don't stop trying to improve.
Yeah.
That's really key. I know for me, there's this sort of dichotomy between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And a lot of people kind of think that they're stuck with whatever they got. And I was one of them forever. I would take personality tests or find ways to sort of justify like where I was in that moment. I look at it now as like a snapshot. Like, here's where I am now, and think, oh, this is how I am. Like, that's my DNA. You can't change me. And it was a way for me to justify inaction. It's a way for me to justify like failure, or to like prevent failure from happening in advance. And I think that really embodying the notion that you are, like Alma likes to say, like, you're not a tree. You can move, you can change, you're malleable. Like your whole mindset is malleable. The thoughts that you think can change. If you're thinking crappy thoughts, that's changeable, right? It's not something that you're just stuck with. If you're not doing the behaviors that you need to be doing in order to get the body that you want, the business or whatever, like those are changeable things. It sucks. It's a really slow process in the beginning, and you're not going to see any results for a while, but stay freaking at it and it will change.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have one final question here. Not everybody's blessed enough to meet somebody that they're aligned with, right? And people do tend to grow at different pace, right? So if there's somebody who wants to stay married, but they're just not aligned with their person, right? It's like, man, divorce is not an option, but we're just not interested in the same things. I don't want a business, you do. I don't believe in God, you do. I don't do this. It's just, what would you guys tell that person? Because there are people like that.
Yeah.
You want to take a shot at this one?
I mean, I feel like if you truly want to make it work, you can work through anything, right? It takes a lot of communication. It may take some counseling, professional counseling. It may take some concessions on both ends, but if your true end goal is we want to stay together, you can pretty much work through anything. If both partners are willing, if you can communicate, you may have to change some things about yourself. There may be some things that you've gotten comfortable doing that aren't really best for your relationship. And so I don't know. I just feel like I'm a really high communicator, and I feel like communicating can fix everything.
Yeah. Quick story for you guys. Before Marisa and I got married, we had hit a few bumps in the road, and it was probably my fault, something I did. I was gun shy, right? I was hesitant. I mean, I've been through divorce. I got kids. This didn't make sense, right? And so I was just afraid of of repeating my mistakes. And she and I agreed to have a meeting, and we went and we rented this cabin out in the woods, no TV, very remote. And we each brought a list, like a printed list of things. Do you remember that? And it was, again, this was before, we were at, Marissa and I were at a fork in the road. We were out, and the meeting was, while we're in this cabin, we're gonna stay here as long as it takes. You're gonna go down your list, I'm gonna go down mine, and when the sun comes up tomorrow, we're either gonna walk out shoulder to shoulder, or we're gonna have agreed to go our separate ways. It was that serious of a meeting.
This is before you got married.
This is before we got married, yeah, and because when you're dating someone the first couple of years or whatever, it's fun, and we were doing fun things and trips. But when it got more serious, and of course I freaked out, and but she had some things that she wanted me to work on, and I had things that my list was way shorter, because obviously I came into the relationship with a lot of terms and conditions, right? A lot of fine print. But we worked through it. And to me, that kind of set the foundation for really our entire marriage. She and I we still do this. We'll go somewhere remotely once a year. And, we have what we call our State of the Union, which is just, we take one night and we shut off all our devices. We get the kids covered and we go and we talk about our goals and things that we want to accomplish, and then things that we maybe fell short on last year, and things that we want to improve on. And it's not a resolution or anything like that. It's just a very intentional meeting where we're just mapping out, on an easel or dry erase board or whatever, like each kid and, our finances and cash flow and all the things. But that communication that's how we roll. We just communicate like that, but it lays the framework for us each year to set some new targets and things like that. So communication has been so instrumental throughout our marriage and our relationship. And I think it's one of the things that has just been key to our success.
What that makes me think, for you guys, I really believe that in general, when I look at some of the couples that we meet and spend time with, whether it's professionally or personally, the people who make it through whatever storms are the people who have shared values, right? And even values are not inherited, right? They're not a part of our DNA. We can change our values, right? But our values are our choice, right? You value God or you don't, right? But your values can change. But if you're willing to adopt the same values, or if you come to the relationship with similar values, that's even better, right? It's a shortcut. But if not, then you develop them together. But mutual interest and all these things change, right? As we mature, we can change different things, but if we stay true to our mutual values, we can overcome anything. And for you guys, really that communication that Marisa is really big on, and I'm sure you eventually, or maybe immediately, or maybe not so immediately, adopted. And alignment is your word, right? So those are a couple of your top values that seem to be woven into this conversation. Yeah. And if you're a good communicator, if you're choosing to communicate with me, let's say your spouse, and if you're willing to stay in alignment with me, we can overcome anything, right?
Yeah.
That's it. So that's, to me, when we think about couples who may have different ideas or interests or different growth spurts, as long as their values are on point, they can overcome anything.
Definitely.
Yeah. I also think prioritizing each other's happiness. A lot of people get stuck in what makes me happy? What do I want to do? Well, when you're in a committed long-term relationship, you don't only have your own happiness to think about, you have your partner's as well, because if your partner's happy, you're happy. And so something else that we've done, we both each created our own list of things. I created a list of things that Shawn can do that fills my love tank, and he's done the same. And we shared that note with each other, and we reference that, weekly or whatever's needed to make sure that we're keeping each other's love tank filled, because I think that's a big part of a partnership and moving forward, is not only thinking about yourself, but thinking about your family and your partner.
Yeah, it's huge. It all kind of comes back to communication. We have a shared family calendar. We have a shared note in our phones that, again, like Marisa said, it's a list of things that she made that makes her feel loved by me. And then I created a list of things that when she does this, it makes me feel loved. And, we don't always get it right. We have our bad days or a week or whatever. But again, to your point, and I think it's a great one, is we never lose sight of what makes each other feel loved, and some of them are very silly, but they mean something to us, right? When I'm driving down the road and she reaches over and massages my neck on a road trip, that makes me feel good, right? I mean, it's little things. It's not always a gift or things like that. It could be just little things around the house. But again, those lists were built with a lot of intention behind them, because the last thing that either of us want is to be married, but kind of feel more like a roommate, right? I've been there. I know what that's like. And again, don't want to repeat that marriage or that experience. And so being intentional and doing the things that I know is going to light her up and vice versa, that just keeps the energy flowing way, way faster, better, all the things.
Yeah. Because when you feel loved by the most important person in your life, there's nothing you can't do. Because even if you make a mistake, you're still loved. So it's okay to make that mistake.
Exactly.
Even if it takes you a little bit longer, that's okay, because you're loved, right? It's that, and knowing that the other person prioritizes your happiness and chooses to love you makes you in turn prioritize their happiness and love that. And it's just this beautiful circle that just gets thicker and fatter, right? It'd be really hard to fail.
But again, it's not. It requires you to be intentional, right?
Yeah.
We cannot go. Our weeks are so, every day is just insanely busy with our companies and the kids, right? It's just always nuts, and it is quite easy to just get caught up in the day to day, and and just not do those things. And so we both kind of know when we're feeling a certain type of way, right? From one another. I know if she's feeling a certain type of way, and usually it's because I have fallen short in one of those areas, and she needs some time from me, and vice versa. And so it's something that we're always aware of. Whereas, we've seen a lot of couples. We've seen a lot of couples that they could care less. Maybe they care, but they're just off doing their own thing, right? They're living and just and they don't seem aligned, and that's when bad things happen.
I agree. In a culture where, especially today's culture with social media and everybody having access to a microphone and being allowed to be a guru, we are heavily leaning on the whole individualistic thing, right? It's like you're responsible for your own happiness, and prioritize you, and it really pushes that individualistic thing. And sure, there's some truth to that, right? However, when you're in a committed relationship, that then, if you're prioritizing your own happiness and prioritizing you, and I can't help you with that, you're responsible for your own feelings, that just tells your partner, your spouse, you're on your own. Stay over there, right?
Get over it. I'm going to do it. And we don't operate that way. We're shoulder to shoulder, and we're aligned, or it's just not going to happen. We've got to have some dialogue about everything, because I would never want to just go down a certain path without her at least having her endorsement, her blessing, whatever you want to call it, right? And there's been multiple times where I've come to her and said, hey, I have an opportunity to fly to California and go speak in front of thousands of people, but I really don't want to do that unless you're fully on board, right? Things like that. And we have to communicate. And I don't just jump, at the first shiny object that comes along. We have a lot of dialogue about it, but it's one of those things that just, it keeps the wheels turning, and it just keeps this machine that we've created and this marriage just optimally primed and moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I love your love. I love how you both show up for each other, and your strength and your commitment to your marriage, to the beautiful children that you have raised together, you continue to raise, and the companies you're building. I'm really excited and blessed to know you. And I look forward to getting to know you, Marisa, even more. And any parting words on you?
No, it's good to have you guys on the show. It's been awesome. Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This is definitely a lot of fun, and look forward to connecting with y'all again soon.
Sounds good.